Hello everyone and welcome to another Endgame episode with Coach B and MasterChess.com. In this episode, we're going to talk about the importance of activating the king in Rook Endgames. The king is an extremely strong piece, but many players lose sight of this due to the fact of the necessity for it to hide during the middle game. However, once the endgame is reached, the king has to pull off his sleeves and enter the fight. Many games are saved or won when one side manages to activate their king while the other king sits snugly at home doing nothing. And the endgame usually starts when you just have one or two pieces left besides the pawns, and usually the queens are off the board. In those scenarios, since it's very difficult to create combinations to checkmate the king can safely enter the battle and help his minors or rooks win the war. So let's take a look at two of those examples in Rook Endgames. This first position is taken from a game played by Lilienthal versus Smyslov, played in 1941 in Leningrad. Here it's black to move, and if we look at his pawn structure, we could see that he is definitely struggling. However, you're going to notice in this game that black is able to save himself following two classic endgame concepts. In the endgame, make your king a fighting piece, and also keep your rook active at all costs. So in this position, with black to move, Smyslov played the move g5, from which white replied with rook takes on h7, and black took the pawn on a2, from which white responded with rook to h6 check, and black responded with king to e5, and then white took the pawn on c6. Coming back, I do want to mention that moving the pawn to h4 is not any better. Here black can respond with pawn to g4. And now white has only two options, taking the pawn on c6 or moving the pawn to h5. If he takes the pawn on c6, black will respond with king to e4, rook takes c5, pawn to f4. And here white needs to be super careful. If he takes the pawn with g takes f4, after king to f3, white is in trouble. If he moves the rook to g5 and pawn to g3, now black threatens checkmate and white will have to sacrifice his rook. After rook takes g3, king takes g3, king to f1, king to f3, king to e1, king takes e3, black is winning here. After king to f1, let's say rook to f2 check, king to g1, the rook takes the pawn on f4, and then he's going to be able to win the other pawns and win the game. And coming back, a better reply for white will be e takes f4. But after king to f3, black reached an equal game. White doesn't have much. After rook to h5, black is simply going to earn a threefold repetition, checking the king on a1. After king to h2, rook to a2, king to g1, rook to a1, and white cannot get out of those checks, and black reached a draw. So coming back to this position after rook to h6 and king to e5, we saw that pawn to h4 is not any better. In the game, rook takes c6 was played, from which black responded king to e4, rook takes c5, and then pawn to f4, playing a similar game. Here white responded with e takes f4, king to f3, and then pawn to h3. And now black reached an equal game. After rook to a1, king to h2, rook to a2, a threefold repetition has been reached and the players regret to a draw. Coming back, after king to f3, I do want to mention that moving the pawn to h4 is not any better. After rook to a1 check, king to h2, rook to a2 check, white has to be careful. He needs to return to g1 because if he makes the mistake of moving the king to h3, then after pawn to g4, this is checkmate and black wins. So we could see in this game how important it was for black to activate the king in order to save himself. This next position I'm going to go over, it's also taken from a game that was played by Salo Flor, a very powerful positional player, playing against Vladimir Petrov in 1937. In this position, it's white to move, and taking a glance at the position, you might think that black is doing very well here. He has a rook on the 7th rank and a passed a-pawn. However, black is actually in serious trouble. You might wonder, how can this be? How can white have an advantage here? And the answer is simple. White's pawn structure is superior, and his king will prove to be far more active than black's, which is too far away from the king's side to defend its pawns there. So let's take a look to see how white activated his king coordinating it beautifully together with his rook. So in this game, white played the move rook to a5, attacking black's d5 pawn, forcing black to respond, from which black replied with rook to b5, from which white responded with an excellent move, rook to a2. Now black's rook is denied the 7th rank, and f2 is no longer under attack. This frees the white king for a triumphant march into black's king side. In the game here, white responded with pawn to g6. And coming back, I do want to mention that moving the pawn to a5 instead is not any better. Here white could have responded with king to f4. After king to a6 and king to e5, there's only two possible options that black can respond here, is either retreating the rook to b1 or moving the king to b6. If he responds with king to b6, I'm just going to fast forward to the moves to see how white would have fought for an advantage. And after white sacrificed his rook, he's going to be able to win by promoting the pawn on the f-file. And coming back to this position, if instead of moving the king to b6, black would have responded with rook to b1, I'm going to fast forward to the moves to see what would have happened in this case. Here, white has reached a winning endgame. So coming back, pawn to g6 was played in the game, from which white responded with king to f4. Black responded with pawn to f6, trying to prevent the king from breaking through. Pawn to g4. Black responded with h takes on g4. And coming back, I do want to mention that no better is simply moving the pawn to a5, because after g takes on h5, g takes h5, and king to f5, white is going to be able to capture the pawn on f6 and also go after the pawn on the h-file. So coming back, h takes g4 was played, from which white responded with king takes g4, rook to b1, rook to a5, rook to b5, rook to a1. White's first rank is more important than his second rank now. Rook to b2, king to f3, rook to b6, rook to g1, threatening to win black's g5 pawn, pawn to f5. Black has defended g6, but now the e5 and g5 squares have been opened up for white's king. King to f4, rook to e6, rook to b1 check, king to a7. Coming back, moving the rook to b6 would not be any better. I'm just going to fast forward to the moves to see what would have been the best continuation and how white would have played for an advantage. And here, white will win the game. So coming back, in the game, black responded with king to a7, from which white responded with pawn to h5, rook to e4 check, king to g5, rook g4 check, king to f6, g takes h5, king takes f5, rook to g2, king to e5, rook to g5 check, king to e6, pawn to h4, rook to h1, rook to h5, pawn to f4, king to b6. Coming back, I do want to mention that a5 here would not have worked, and again I'm just going to fast forward to the moves to show you why. And here white has a winning endgame. He can even sacrifice the rook for the pawn on the a-file if the black king manages to march down, as he's going to have time to capture the pawn on d5 and promote his other pawns. But coming back, king to b6 was played, from which white respond with f5, king to c5, pawn to f6, king to d8, rook to f1. And here black doesn't have many options. He played rook to h6, but coming back, I do want to mention that king to e8 here is not any better, After rook to b1, king to d8, rook to b8 check, king to c7, f7, king takes b8, and white promotes with check, white is totally winning. After king to b7, white is going to move the queen to f7, winning the rook and winning the game. So coming back, rook to h6 was played, and after king to f7, pawn to h3, king to g7, rook to h4, pawn to f7, pawn to h2, white promoted with check, and black resigned. If you liked my video, please subscribe and don't forget to check out my new website, masteryourchess.com, where you can learn, practice, test, and master your chess knowledge.